Good evening, everyone. I finally made it. How is your what is today? Tuesday going. I know mine has been very tough. Oh my god, and this heat has been really terrible. Oh god. So everyone that's watching, I would encourage you to go ahead and get your car serviced. It's so hot. Make sure you got oh, excuse me, you got your oil and everything in there. I would hate for your car to break down, so I had to do that today, take care of that. So that's why I'm running a little bit late, but I had to load my screens also. So tonight's topic is a light one, and it's why do we celebrate Pride? I'm going to try not to be on here too long. Please share the live. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and place it in the chat. If you look in the caption, it's the phone number, and you can also join the screen. You could be up here with me. So, yeah. So, tomorrow is June 1st. And normally for the LGBTQ plus community, that's when all of our pride events jump off. And everybody just pulls out all of their weird pride gear and paraphernalia. You see all kinds of wild shit. You see people with uh, crazy leather pants or chaps with the middles cut out, or you see them with wild, colorful hair, nails, just different things that go along with pride. And I have nothing against that because I do enjoy it and I hope to take part in some of the festivities. But for me, I just like to know why I'm celebrating something. I don't know what it is like for you guys. I want to know what I'm celebrating, why, who's the key players in it. I don't just like to just embark on this celebration and I'm out there screaming, "Oh, it's pride. Boo, boo, boo. I'm gay. I'm screaming from all the ceilings and I'm dancing. I'm gay. I'm gay. I'm gay." I just like to know why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? So tonight's topic is why do we celebrate pride? And because LGBTQ plus history isn't taught in schools, we kind of got to find out on the street or find out from an organization. A lot of us don't actually know why we celebrate. So, for those of you who don't, and for the allies that celebrate Pride and would love to know why you do it, we're going to explain it tonight. And hopefully, I can get off this live in less than an hour and make preparations because, yes, I'm LGBTQ and I want to start my Pride off great. So, I'm going to take a moment to share this live before I begin. Because, with everything I do, I have to give you some historical reference. I have to frame it for you. So, if you can also share the live, that'll be awesome. Share it with somebody that might want this information. Or, get a notepad and take some of these notes yourself. And you might find value in this information, or you might want to go behind me and research. So, let me just share this to one of my groups that's not up here. Okay. Alrighty. Say hello to me if you're staring at. I love you guys. It's okay to say anything to me in the comments. It's okay to say hello. I do not bite. Say hello. If you have any questions, type them in the comments. If you have anything you like to say, call in or type it in the comments. It's okay. This is a safe space. Everyone here is learning. Remember, LGBTQ histories are not in stone. We don't have anything within curriculum. You don't learn them in school, so don't feel bad if you don't know something or get something. Okay, how you doing, Sharice? All right, so why do we celebrate Pride? And I'm gonna tell you, hey, pretty Muslim, you better get better, girl. Get better. I'm praying. I'm looking out for you. So let's talk about why we celebrate Pride. Pride is more than just what you see today. It's not about the parades, it's not about the festivities, it's not about the multiple parties that you go to. Pride is actually started out as a riot. I'm sorry, I didn't meant to say actually. Pride started out as a riot. Did anybody know that? It started out as a riot in New York at the Stonewall Inn in 1969, June 28th. Now, there's multiple stories about the key players that was involved in Pride. So tonight we're going to go over that. So that way when you walk away, you'll be clear as to who did what, why, and why we celebrate. But before we get into that actual date, June 28th, I want to give you some historical context as to how we got there. What was the mind frame of the people of that time in 1969, in which I wasn't even born yet? But I want to give you some context, in which some of y'all probably already know from school some of the things that was going on in the 60s. Mainly, we learned the civil rights movement was going on. We lost two of our key players in the 60s. We lost Malcolm X, and then 3 years later, we lost Dr. King. Another thing that was going on between the 50s and the 60s, remember, women didn't have property rights, meaning that you couldn't do certain things. You couldn't go to the bank and open up a bank account. You needed to be married and have your husband sign it. Okay? You couldn't even get a home. You couldn't do any of those things. So I'm telling you stuff for historical context so you can understand why the people during that time moved the way they moved and probably reacted the way they reacted. So a common thing that you probably learned in school, you heard about the Red Scare, which was happening in the 50s. Basically, we were rooting out the communists out of our government. Anyone that held a government position and all of those things, it happened under the Dwight D. Eisenhower administration. So that was earlier in the 50s. So I'm sure you heard of the Red Scare. But no one talks about another event that was happening alongside of the Red Scare. It was also the Lavender Scare. And you probably said, what the hell is the Lavender Scare? Does anybody know what the Lavender Scare is? Just take a shot and guess. Anyone that's watching, do you know what the Lavender Scare is? This is just, we building groundwork to show how we got to Stonewall. Anybody know what the Lavender Scare is? If you watching, take a wild guess. I'll give you a second. The Lavender Scare. So remember, Red Scare, rooting out communists, and alongside of it is the Lavender Scare. Okay, so I guess nobody know what the Lavender Scare is, so I'll tell you what it is. So the Lavender Scare is similar to the Red Scare. Instead of you rooting out communists, people that you thought were Nazis or people from other countries that were spies, the government was rooting out LGBTQ plus people. They considered us communists. They consider us as sexual deviants, and we were easily I don't know, blackmail. So let's say you LGBT, you work in a government job, and a communist wanted to get information. Dwight Eisenhower believed that it would be easier because of your sexual orientation and the climate of the times. So the spy or the commie would say to you, um, I need this certain amount of information. I need to know this. You need to tell me this. And you might say, well, no, I'm not betraying my country. But in Dwight E. Eisenhower, and I'm sorry, in the president's, from his perspective, you would tell because you didn't want it to be outed. You didn't want to be outed. You didn't want your personal life to be divulged. Okay, you didn't want that in the public. So you was considered as a governmental risk. So that's what the gist of the lavender scare is. Let me put this up here. This echo from talking is driving me crazy. All right, so the lavender scare. During the 50s, the lavender scare is about the LGBTQ plus people were enemies of the state, similar to the Red Scare, which is purging of the communists out of the government. I explained that to you. Because Eisenhower considered us a threat, he signed multiple executive orders concerning LGBTQ people in government positions. Um, so we're talking about the armed forces. We're talking about working in the state governments, male, women, and men. Anything that was federal, state jobs, we couldn't work. They begin to root us out. So let me tell you how they did it. And this is again building context as to how we got to pride. Forgive me. All right. So with the lavender scare, the government held investigations. They started looking into your life. They started spying on you to figure out if you was LGBTQ. And then what they did was hold trials. Now you could go on YouTube and look at some of them. They were actually public trials and they asked you questions. And if it was assumed that you was LGBTQ, you lost your job, you lost all your benefits with it. So if you were a 30-year veteran serving in the military, you lost everything. You lost your pension, you lost everything once they realized that you were LGBTQ. Another thing that went on during that time is that they posted you in a newspaper. So after you go through this trial and you're deemed a LGBT communist, they'll put your paper in your picture in the paper for everyone to see. So imagine you being in the Philadelphia Times, the Delaware, whatever the Delaware Post, and you done lost your very good job, and then they put you out there, and then all these little mom and pop shops see you in this paper. So it literally just destroyed your life. And that was the climate of the times from 1950 on up to the 1970s. And we still saw remnants of this executive order when you hear about don't ask, don't tell, and all that stuff. That all stem from the lavender scare. And I suggest that you guys read about the lavender scare. Another thing common with the lavender scare is we were arrested. So just imagine being out at a party or wherever you were and the police walk in because again it was illegal to be LGBTQ because of the sodomy laws. I explained that to y'all maybe 2 or 3 shows ago. They could come in, arrest you, and then again the same thing will happen. Your picture will be in the paper, you'll be outed, and you most likely lost your livelihood. So that was the climate of the times of the 50s and the 60s. So LGBTQ people were probably relegated to being like entertainers, anything that was acceptable by us for us, and then maybe if we were closeted and owned something, we probably hired us, but maybe not too many of us. Yes, that is discrimination today, but back then there were no laws to protect LGBTQ people. And that's why I do this show, because I want you to understand where you came from and where we could possibly go back to and where we're going now. And to me, this time that we're in is very scary with the passing of don't say gay laws and all these different things. It kind of make you kind of, well, for me, nervous. Because again, just like a law can be passed for you, it could be a law passed against you. So let me go back to my main screen. And I'm going to share some other things that was going on during the 50s and 60s, so I can show you how it was for the key players during the Stonewall riots. What was going on? A lot of times you hear about history and you say, oh, okay, here's the facts, but context shapes it for you so you can actually get this picture. So, along with the stuff with the lavender scare, and if you want to look up the act, it was Executive Order 10450. That's the executive order, and it stemmed from the Lavender Act. It's the Sexual Perversion Act. All right. Also, during this time, if you ever went on the IME court page, I give you brief history there. In 1952, the APA labeled being a homophile, that's what they called it back then, a homophile. They labeled it as being a psychopathic personality disorder. So, what does that mean? It means if you ended up in a jail or your family reported you, they can have you placed in a psych ward. And if you ever saw Nurse Jackie, you saw some of the treatments. You saw the ice bath, you saw the lobotomies and all that kind of stuff. So all of this stuff was going on in the 50s and 60s. Also around that time, we started developing organizations such as the Medellin Society and the Daughters of Bilitis. And we start trying to defend ourselves and try to get some rights, doing boycotts, um, demonstrations at the White House. Same things that we are kind of doing now. We were doing that in the 50s and the 60s. And again, keep it in historical context. While this was going on, we also had the civil rights movement, and we had the feminist movement going on. So all of this stuff going on in the 50s and 60s, it was off the chain. Alongside of all this chaos, of course we have crooked people, right? So then the Gayola scandal happened. So the Gayola scandal is where police officers were taking bribes from establishments that were allowing LGBT people to come and hang out and congregate. And if you didn't pay, then there was an issue. They'd lock you up, beat you, did all kinds of stuff. Now, this is the funny part to me. How did they determine you was LGBTQ? Right? Because you could have been an ally in there. They judged you by how you dressed, how you walked, if you looked like you was gay. There was really no defined measurements for it. It was just if you look like you gay, You dress like it, we taking you in. So definitely, even if you were in the drag profession and you could have been heterosexual, they dragging you in. So this is the climate of the times. Is everybody following? How are you doing, Brenda? How are you? I'm doing good. So that's the context of the time that I wanted to share. It was a big ball of hot mess going on. Again, civil rights, LGBT people fighting for rights, feminists fighting for rights, on top of some of the riots you heard in school, like the Newark riots and all these other different things, the death of Martin Luther King, the death of Malcolm X, and then the death of Audrey Hepburn, which was like a gay icon back then. So it's just so much going on. Okay, so I done talked to you about the 50s and the early 60s and gave you context. All right. So let's just think about life in the 60s as a gay woman. Or, you had the image of a gay woman, even if drag or whatever during that time. So, as a gay woman during that time, I'm sorry, LGBTQ woman during that time, and we would call homophiles. Let's use the terminology. As a homophile during that time, a woman, you needed a beard. You could not obtain anything unless you had a husband. So imagine the frustration of being a homophile, a woman, and if you're black, then you also understand you have very limited opportunities. Men had a little better. So we get in the picture. It was very difficult. And I thank God that my LGBTQ brothers and sisters survived back then. And they kept the fight. I could only imagine the suicide rate back then, and I should have probably looked it up. Because them conditions seem so stifling, like your life was in a box. Also, as a woman, you had very limited job opportunities. So you probably were a telephone operator, a maid, a nanny, but you weren't these high power lawyers, you weren't doctors. You probably was a nurse, but a low paid nurse, and you had to be well off to get the schooling for that. Pretty Muslim said, I couldn't imagine living in those times. My God. Yeah, it was rough. And like I said again, I'm giving you historical context so you can understand how people felt during the 50s and 60s and how, Stonewall could have sparked off. All right, so let me see if there's anything else I want to share with you. Please, everyone that's watching, I encourage you to look up the Lavender Scare. It was so crazy back in the 50s that these people were examining comic books to make sure they weren't gay. If a comic book character didn't have a wife, they looked sideways and said, oh my God, he might be gay. They examined Batman. Batman and Robin seemed like an LGBTQ couple. This can't happen. We got to create a woman character. This is how bad they were. Pretty Salima say I will have to check it out. Sounds interesting. Yeah, check it out. The 50s were a hot mess. It was a hot mess just to be a straight woman. It was even worse to be an LGBTQ woman or a feminine man. Anything that was the woman representation, it was like bad for us. All right. And not to mention the feminist movement made heterosexual women really dislike LGBTQ women because we were taking away their comforts because we wanted our liberty. So a lot of our grandmothers and great grandmothers enjoyed that lifestyle of living under their husband, not having to work, the husband getting the check, paying for everything, and all they had to do was cook and clean and sit at home and watch television. But then some of you gay ass women wanted your freedoms. You didn't no longer want that beer. You didn't want to be married to a man to cover up, and that gay man didn't want to be married to you. You wanted to have your own life, so you started fighting for freedoms for women. And that made the heterosexual women, some of them, upset. So when you hear some of these men saying that, oh, LGBT people destroying the family, that is why. They got it from their grandparents, great grandparents telling them that. The LGBT people, these gay people, destroyed the fabric of America. They destroyed the family. They didn't like it. The men lost control of the women, and the women lost their ability to depend on the men. I don't know why anyone would want that lifestyle, being LGBT or otherwise. I don't get it. Heterosexual, otherwise, I'm sorry. But that's what they wanted. Also, back then, just to share, there weren't any domestic violence rights either. So your husband could beat you like he beat his child. All right, so let's get to Stonewall because we already a half hour in. So I done gave y'all historical context of the 50s and the 60s. A hot mess. So let's go in. Let's talk about these riots. If you ever heard anything about Stonewall, happened June 28th, 1969, Stonewall Inn. The version that you probably heard is that Marsha P. Johnson went inside Stonewall, had a drink, got upset because of a raid, and threw a shot glass. And from there, the riot sparked. It was drag queens, it was trans people, it was lesbians, bisexuals, whatever you were in the community. We all got out there and started kicking these cops' ass to the point where it ended up in the streets and the cops locked themselves inside a Stonewall. And this went on for days, this riot. Not necessarily the fighting portion of it, but the riot portion of it, which sparked the Gay Liberation Act. Well, Pretty Muslim said, shit, I'll be whooping his ass. Well, you will go to jail back there, Pretty Muslim, or either to therapy. But back to Stonewall. So that's the story that we are taught from your gay mom and dad, or just being within the community, or being in the org. But I'm here to tell you through research, and I always say go behind me, that is not exactly how Stonewall went. As much as we would love to give Marsha the credit, Marsha did not spark Stonewall. And I like to share this clip with you for some people that's probably going to listen later And listen now, that's probably disturbed about that fact. She became the face of it because she was vocal, but she did not spark the Stonewall riots. And here's a clip of Marsha herself. Don't go nowhere.
Uptown. I didn't get downtown till about 2 o'clock because when I got downtown, the place was already on fire and it was a raid already.
Marsha P. Johnson's friend and fellow activist Sylvia Rivera is also sometimes credited with starting Stonewall.
Sylvia Rivera is known for throwing the first bottle at the Stonewall riots.
Sylvia Rivera herself said in 2001,
I have been given the credit for throwing the first Molotov cocktail, but I always like to correct it. I threw the second one. I did not throw the first one.
first of all, that comment was probably tongue in cheek. Second of all, it's not certain that Molotov cocktails were thrown.
How are we feeling so far? I love Sylvia. I thank her for all of her contributions to the Stonewall riots. But Sylvia was not the initiator of it. She did not spark the Stonewall riots. She was a key player, though. I encourage everybody that's watching that's never heard of Sylvia Johnson to go and look her up. I'm sorry, Marsha P. Johnson. If you never heard of Marsha P. Johnson, look her up. If you are available this Friday at 6 p.m. and you're close to Delaware, please come out to the Me seminar. We will be discussing her life, the times that she lived in, so you'll get a little bit more details, and her involvement in the Stonewall riots and her contributions. The second lady that was mentioned in there was her close friend, which is Sylvia Rivera. Rivera, I'm sorry. This echo. So Sylvia was another key player, very vocal, one of the representative of the Stonewall riots. But she did not spark the riot neither. So you just heard both of them. So you probably saying, well, how did the Stonewall riots begin? And I'm going to tell you how it began. For all of you people that do not give opportunities to drag kings, you owe a drag king your liberation. And I need you guys to think about that. It was a drag king, lesbian. We call them studs now. Back then they call themselves butches, or masculine centered woman who was a performer. She sung jazz, she danced, she worked making her money as a drag king, and she came from a wealthy family. She was also mulatto. Okay, that's who we owe our liberation to. And her name is Stormy. And I'm going to show you a picture of Stormy. So the next time you think about Stonewall, think Stormy and research Stormy. And next time you have an event, hire a drag king. Now let's go back to historical reference. Remember I said that women had very little rights? You had to be under the thumb of either your husband or your father. In Stormy's case, it was her father because her father was wealthy. Imagine being a masculine centered woman, dating women, and your father had to be over your household and try to control money and bank accounts and things of that nature. And then you could possibly get arrested for being a homophile Or you could probably, even worse, be placed in a mental institution. And then she was also around 40 during the Stonewall riot. So God only knows, she could have been going through menopause for all we know. But that is a cocktail for disaster. So on that night, when the cop came in to shake down Stonewall, because the owners did not pay their kickoff to them, they decided they was going to arrest the patrons. We're going to arrest you. So one of the police officers decided that Stormy was going to be the first person that he was going to approach. And it didn't go down like that. Let me show y'all a picture of Stormy. Now, I don't want to butcher her name. It's Stormy Delavere or Delavere. Beautiful drag king, right? Lesbian drag king, entertainer, singer, dancer. This woman is the reason why Stonewall happened. She was tired. She was frustrated with her situation, and she had enough. She had enough of the lavender scare. She had enough of all that stuff that was going on. Talk about intersectionality. Black, LGBT, mulatto, a woman. God. But that's her. And I'm going to share a clip from her in her own words as to what happened that night.
And who fit the description quite as well as she does until I interviewed her, and she said the cop hit me and I hit him back.
I walked away with an eye bleeding, but he was laying on the ground, out.
She says I was there and I did this, but then when I read an account of the cross-dressing lesbian who started the riot, she said, oh, I know who that was, but I'm not going to say.
Wow. That was Stormy, you guys. What do you think? Stormy is the reason why the Stonewall incident happened. She's the reason why that whole situation occurred. She came to the bar after an act or performance. Just wanted to get maybe a beer or whatever it is her drink of choice was. Police came in, a scuffle happened, and then the riot started. I can't remember her exact words, but I believe it was, she said, why are you guys just looking? Why are you just staring? Do something. And then that's when everything began. And then later on that night, Marsha came, and by, like you heard her say, the bar was already burning down. The cops that was in there, they managed to escape, but the bar suffered. So this is why we celebrate Pride. Pride is a representation of all of us coming together. How we let go our differences. Something that we don't do too much today. We have the lesbians feeling some kind of way about the trans community. We have lesbians feeling some kinds of ways about bisexuals. The trans community feeling like they want to separate from the community, or the identity should separate. But if we didn't work together, there wouldn't be any pride. There wouldn't be any gay liberation movements. It wouldn't be none of that stuff. So when you go out there and celebrate Pride this year, don't just remember Sylvia. Don't just remember Marsha. Remember Stormy. Remember all the things that we had to endure to get to where we are now. You don't want to ever, ever, ever forget. At least I don't want to forget. Because I would hate for another Eisenhower to pop up and decide to spark another lavender scare. In which I feel like they're trying to do that now with the trans community. Oh, they're trying to take over sports. Oh, they're trying to destroy womanhood. They're trying to destroy the black family. I see it all. It's too much. Recognize the signs. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to share? Anything. Every time I do this show, it's like everybody just watches me. Anything you like to share, anything you want to know. Nothing. Okay, so essentially tonight, I explained to you why we celebrate Pride. Pride was sparked by a riot. It started out as a riot. Were there other riots previous? Yes. I encourage you to look that up. Pride was not the only, Stonewall was not the only riot. I encourage you to look up the Medellin Society to see some of the accomplishments that they did for the LGBTQ community. The Daughters of Melitus. It's different things that went on during these times. Just for us to get here and forget. Let's see if I forgot anything. I have a little pad because it's so much. Nope. I don't think I forgot anything to tell you. I think got all of historical references and stuff. Yeah, but the 50s and the 60s were tumultuous times. Very hard. If you were within these different minority groups and things of that nature, we had it rough. And it's mainly because the government enacted laws against us. Now, today we don't have too much of that. We just have a lot of social scrutiny of people feeling some kind of way and then acting on how they feel. But imagine the government being very oppressive. And we've seen a little bit about that with the Roe versus Wade thing, in which I believe that was passed around the 40s or 50s. Any questions, anyone? All right. Well, since y'all don't have any questions, I guess I could probably get out of here. I did start a little late, but I can leave a little early. I want y'all to enjoy Pride, celebrate, go to all the events that you can, support your nonprofit organizations because they support you. They're doing the work because it's still work needed to be done. I mentioned earlier that a lot of our woes started from the sodomy laws, and there's still states that have the sodomy laws on the books. You could research that also. A lot of Eisenhower's acts have been already taken care of thus far, but who's to say, it won't resurface another lavender scare and then people just start going bonkers. So research, pay attention to the times. And while you're out there, don't forget, while you're celebrating, that people actually went through a lot for you to get to that point to be able to dance in the streets and wear them weird costumes and hats and glasses and stuff of that nature and take your pictures and listen to your loud music. And try to be kind. If you are a promoter and you're putting on these events, be kind. Don't be discriminatory when it comes to race and all of those things. Embrace and be inclusive of everyone, because Pride was inclusive. The first one, the riot was inclusive. And I think we just need to just get back to that space as a community where we respect and love one another and support each other. So I guess I'm going to get off. I hope that you guys learned something tonight. I hope you share this live, and I hope someone else will learn something. I'm not sure what I'm going to discuss next week, but I'll let you know. I'll post it on all my social media pages. Also, please follow me at Peach ENT on YouTube. If you like what you heard here, if you like historical things, I have something called the Daily Tea. And I post on it at least every other day on my YouTube channel and put up historical facts. The last fact that I placed up there was, I'm sorry, what was the last fact that I placed up on my YouTube? It was about, oh, I think I remember, being LGBT is Hinduism, reincarnation, and LGBTQ. That was the last Daily Tea that I posted on my YouTube. So you can go look me up, put Peach ENT in the search, and look it up, and you'll see my Daily Tea. I like to share different little video clips just to educate you on being LGBTQ and what's being said about us, or some of the facts, the history, or just word on the street type things. So please follow me. And you can get all of those links on my personal page, or you can get it on Plug Studio Network, or you can follow me on Peach. I have my own page. What is it called? The public figure page. All of this stuff is on there. You're not late. You can always rewind it. But I'm about to get off here, you guys. Again, if you are free Friday and you want to learn about the LGBTQ plus community and you have questions, come out to the Me Seminar. Learn, listen, talk to a diversity coach, ask your questions. All questions will be screened. We will feed you. We will give you drinks. It's a safe space for heterosexual people to learn and LGBTQ people to learn. Come out. If you can't make it to that, just go to imecorp.org. Come out to a Sunday tea. You'll meet me personally, and you'll also meet the rest of the board and some of our fabulous members. If you like the education, that's what we'll do. Educate you. That's what I'm all about. That's what the Peach Radio Show is all about. Everything associated with me is all about that. All right, y'all. So that's my show. I'll see y'all next Tuesday for the Peach Radio Show. You know what? Since y'all on here, give me a topic. What would you want me to discuss? What would you like to learn about the community? I'll give y'all time, and then I'll tell you about relationships aren't easy. That's smacking our show. It airs Saturday at 3 p.m. Our topic is about religion. Should religion make a difference in your relationship? Should y'all have the same religion? We're going to talk about that Saturday at 3 p.m. on relationships aren't easy. And then Sunday, if you missed it, it turned into a 3-hour show. Oh my God. Spiritual Sundays. On Spiritual Sundays, we'll be talking about different things outside of religions, different belief systems. Everyone come on, talk about what's on their heart. You could call in and share your spiritual experiences, or you could listen. It's a great build. It was a 3-hour one last Sunday. I was shocked. So hopefully it'll be that great next Sunday coming up. Well, this Sunday coming up. The topic will be about reincarnation. If you're interested in that, people will be discussing past lives, reincarnation, and how you know if you've reincarnated before. And if you're LGBT, I encourage you to watch it, because it's a big spiritual piece in that for you. All right, so anybody got any topics they would like me to discuss? All right. Well, I guess I could get on up out of here. All right, y'all. So I love all of y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Look out on my pages and Plug Studio Network for the next topic. I'm not sure what it's going to be on. I asked you guys, what would you like me to discuss? You didn't give me anything, so I have to come up with something myself. But I hope that you leave tonight understanding why you celebrate Pride, and you go out there and you thank the key players in this celebration in the Stonewall riots. Y'all have a great night, and let's get Pride kicked off proper tomorrow. I love y'all. Talk to y'all Saturday. Relationships aren't easy. Good night.
You heard